just, again, feel like this book is such a good choice for this time in education. And it really meets the needs of, I think, what so many teachers struggle with. And you know, I guess to frame it this way, I had a coaching conversation with someone this week, and they're a reading teacher and an ELA teacher, and I'm sure a good one. And as we're talking, she said, you know I want to move more to having kids talk to each other, and I want to have workshop teaching. But she said, I really don't know how to do it. And I don't know if I would be teaching what I need to be teaching. If I've always had a basal I followed, how do I know if I'm teaching the right skills? And so this book, Note and Notice, and what it does is it gives you 6 core, and they call them signposts, that you teach the kids. And when you teach the kids, you don't teach it once. You use gradual release. You model these lessons, you know, at many different opportunities. But the students have an opportunity to internalize them, and it's gradual release at its best, because ultimately what you want is you want kids who are curious, who dive into a text and can't begin to think of coming up for air until they know what happens to Brian and his hatchet, or Kenny and the people who thought bombing a church filled with little girls would be a good idea, until they figure out what's happened to Sal's mom, until they understand why it is both the best and the worst of times, until they feel as Anne felt in the attic, or get angry like Atticus, or know regret and redemption like a boy who grew up among the kite runners. We want them inside the text, noticing everything, questioning everything, weighing everything they are reading against their lives, the lives of others, and the world around them. And when you look at this in here, you want them noticing, you want them questioning, and you want them weighing. You can want all you want, but unless you teach and you show and you model and you give practice, kids aren't going to know how to do that. And so these signposts offer a very clear, simple, I think, way to do it. And they model it for you. So it's not rocket science. So, yep. Before we go into it, though, I think it's always good to understand when authors put together a book, they started way before 2008, but 2008 is when they started really collecting their ideas. They had 12 signposts. They worked with teachers around the country. Teachers gave them input and said 12's too many. So then they whittled it down to 6 core. Once they had the 6 core, embedded in each are questions that you teach the students to ask themselves, to wonder about. They had, I don't know, a number of questions for each signpost. They listened to the teachers. There is one core question, because when you simplify and you clarify, kids can learn it. When you have too much, it's like it overwhelms them. We ended up, Mark and I and Lynn, ended up last year doing one of our LCN sessions, and we each took one of these signposts, which I believe we probably will do something like that. I was just amazed at the thinking, and this was with the adults that I was doing it with, the thinking that they were able to get to, and mine was asking questions, and it was getting at the internal characterization. And we then pulled out the MESA unit, and the MESA unit had thinking, it had a handout, and we analyzed both of them. And what happened is most of these were secondary folks, so I think, Sarah, you can relate to that. Most of the secondary folks said, you know what? I get it with the signpost. I do not get it just from this sheet and doing the thinking. And so I think for teaching and for some of us, the MESA units are still somewhat the what they're framed in the how. But if you don't understand the how, and if you don't have that toolkit of the how, it's very difficult to do. And so this is an excellent resource. I'm selling it to you. But before we get into it.
She's already given it to you.
Yeah. Well, this way they might read it. The questions we pondered, they pondered questions, and these are good questions. And I'd like you to look at page 10 to 12, and I want you just to read those questions. There are 10 of them. They're at the timeline on the bottom. And I think it's brilliant the way they write these days. So page 10 and 11. I mean, think about the question, must everyone read the same book? You know, it's nice to get a perspective from two researchers who have been out in the educational field a long time. What do they say? And what do they say based on whatever research they've done? I love the one, what is the role of talk? How does that fit? So what we'd like you to do is we'd like you to choose a question you want to ponder today. So of the 10 you read, which one really kind of speaks to you? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you, I'm going to start out with, I'm going to try to make up a little time. I think I was going to give about 8 minutes. I'm going to start with 5 minutes and see where you're at. And what you're going to do is you're going to read, you want to click it again, Mark? You're going to read the pages for the question you have. And if yours is a short one, some of them are like 3 pages and some are like 5, 6 pages. So if yours is a short one, read 2. And as you read, highlight key things, or you can write in the book, what are some things that inspire you about this question you're pondering? And then what we're going to do is we're going to have you share your key learnings, but also we're going to have you share how you might share this thinking with your colleagues and how this might impact your teaching. But initially, it's the key learnings, the connections. So go ahead, 5 minutes, and I'll check in with you to see where you're at.